So, we are here in the beautiful city of Marrakech at the ACI World Annual General Assembly. And I'm joined here by Luis Felipe de Oliveira, who is Director General of ACI World. So, Felipe, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
My first question for you is, how is the recovery of your airports actually going at the moment?
Well, the recovery is going a little bit faster than expected. If you remember the last time we spoke about that, we have a little bit different provision. The year started very bad with the Omicron affecting heavily our passenger traffic during the beginning of the year. And suddenly we started to have a ramp up of demand because, of course, the restrictions were alleviated. People were crazy to travel, and we started to see that movement coming to the airport as well. The summer was a good thing that we have a lot of passengers that come with some problems as well, and different parts of the world are reacting differently to the recovery as well.
So we just said different parts of the world are reacting differently. So what are the variations? Are there any areas that are really leading the way in recovery and some that are still lagging behind?
Well, it's impressive how Latin America is doing, because basically in Latin America they were very affected at the beginning of the pandemic. The traffic go to almost zero, countries closed, everything was really complicated there because of government restrictions. But as soon as the government restrictions were released, the traffic really ramped up. In the Latin American region, they were very close to the 100% of the traffic levels from 2019. A little bit similar with Africa as well. Africa is doing very well. Europe is going around the 70-something% at the end of the year with a very strong summer, especially. But the Asia Pacific is still left behind because many countries are still closed and until a few months ago or a few weeks ago. But we are starting to see the movement of countries opening. We have Japan, Taiwan, and others that started to open now in a few weeks ago. And that I think will incentivize and create like a domino effect in the other countries as well. The biggest question mark, of course, is still China, when China will open. And we hope that it will be sooner than later, because when you have China open, you'll probably be able to equalize the whole global opening of the market. The Chinese market is a very huge market that affects many different markets in the world. And I think when China opens, we have a less restrictions or no restrictions to flying in and out of China, we will have a big difference in the world. We still, in our vision, to see, in our prognostics, to see that domestic traffic will recover by the end of 2023. Faster than international markets, that maybe will be 24, in some cases even 25. But in average, we have the same number of the passengers of 2019, mid of 24, and we are very sure about that.
I remember it was only last year when we were in Cancun for the ACI WAGA, and it was fantastic to see a full flight going out there from the UK.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it just shows that maybe restrictions, having less restrictions is like a sure way to growth, rebound and recovery. Is that the view you take as well?
Yes, because and you give a very good example, because talking about Mexico was the only country in the world that never closed. So Mexico is more than 100%, And why we did the conference there? Because of lack of restrictions.
Yeah.
Other organizations did the conference there because of lack of restrictions as well. So basically, the way Mexico approached the pandemic was a very positive one, and that's why they're collecting the results of that as well. And you see other countries, similar one, Colombia, Nigeria, is also now, after releasing restrictions, going very well, compared to the others that are not doing so well.
And it's been a very strong summer. We've actually been calling it the summer of discontent, especially in Europe. It's received a lot of attention from the mass baggage pilots and lot of news. Was this just particular to Europe, or is everyone experiencing that? Because you heard so much about Europe, so I'm wondering if it's the same.
Yeah, I agree with you. We are service providers, and we need to provide the best passenger experience as possible. But one thing that is important to know is that the aviation is an ecosystem. So we have 60% of the jobs of the aviation jobs are inside of the airports. That's why we have ground handlers, we have catering, we have fuel suppliers. Everything is inside of the airport. So when you go to the airport, something goes wrong, one part of the ecosystem affect all of them. That's why if you don't have enough guards to do the process of the immigration process, that will affect the whole airport itself. Because the airports were created to have a flux of passengers, not passengers stuck in one area of the airport. Because that can create an influx, and now flux not correct for the building that is a pass-through building rather than be a place that you need to stay. And when we talk about the ecosystem, we have many areas that we need to think about. I think the first one is that we, as an airport, we never close. But we never close, but we need to keep everything working in there. And we spend in some countries almost 2 years without proper operations. And unfortunately, we need to adapt to this reality, in terms of reducing the staff. The recovery comes a little bit faster than expected. And sometimes you hire an employee. Doesn't matter if he's in the ground handling, doesn't matter if he's in the security, border protection, or immigration, or others. Take time. That's why we are talking about 3 or 4 weeks. Sometimes these guys need to be tracked because they work in restricted areas. They need to be tracked by the authorities. And the authorities also are taking longer to approve people to go to restricted areas. That's why sometimes our hiring process are taking 3 months. In addition, we have a lack of professionals in the area. If you know we're still in a pandemic and you have a job that sometimes is not very well paid, and someone asks you to go back to the airport, to work in shifts, to work in different hours, to work far away from the city town, you are taking 2 times before you go back to work in the airport as well. It's like we are not really, we didn't have the credibility as a good employee to start to hire in the process faster than others. And that does not affect us. You see the hotels and restaurants have the same facilities, the same kind of employees. So they suffer the same thing. The service around the world suffered. Europe was a little bit more extended on that, and in Europe you see more also covered by the press and more dissatisfaction with the customers. And basically you see that in Europe, it happens in different parts of the world. And what we need to do, we need to create now, as the growth is coming, how we can build back better, how we can bring back these employees back to work with us, how we can value these employees a little bit more, how the service level of agreements will improve, and how we can use better technology to also replace it. Because even when you talk about the global size of the industry by 2054, we are not doubling the size of the number of employees. The technology plays a key role, and I think that will help us as well to improve the technology and also to reduce the workforce in certain areas of the area.
I want to touch on this area of workforce in the next generation. Why do you think the younger generation, and maybe so specifically women, because aviation is a traditionally very male-dominated industry, what puts them off joining, in your opinion? And might we see in the future maybe a kind of diversity accreditation from ACI World? Because I think that would be perfect.
Well, we think very serious about the diversity and inclusion, and that is something we need to think about, because if we continue to hire the same profile as we always do, we are excluding from this process people that could be very, very productive and working for us as well. So I think something we need to attract more. The young generation is different, because I remember when I was a kid, I love airplanes. I love to be maybe in the air one day. I could be a pilot, and I end up working in aviation, and I love what I do. The passion of the kids today is a little bit different, so because we lost a little bit the flavor of an industry that is desirable, right? And we need to build this desire for the industry. And how you build that? You need to build it, develop and advocating for sustainable use. Airports are doing the best as they can to provide that. We have the airport transportation, we have a lot of things that we are doing to show to the world that we are an industry that is looking forward to sustainable work. And in looking at that, I think we started maybe to have more young generation thinking about that, because the young generation is more aware about the risk of the world that is not sustainable. But the sustainability needs also to come with the social economic development visions. Aviation is an integrator. The capillarity of the regions in terms of where you are, Africa, Latin America, Asia, aviation is not only a way of transport, aviation is the way to connect, the only way to connect sometimes. And when the young generation realize the importance of the social economic development that aviation brings comes with sustainability as well. And I think that is the areas that we need to act. So inclusion, how we can bring the new generation, how we can create that. And to create an accreditation that could be something we can do. We are working on a lot of accreditation. I think we'll touch base that a little bit later in the interview. But yes, could be something we do. We have a group internally in ACI that we are discussing about diversity inclusion, and I think that's important for us. And we need to go beyond. We need to go how we can integrate all parts of the society can be part of our workforce because they are part of our task. That's right. Having different views and different approaches in our industry will help us to better understand our customers, to better understand how we can deliver that for the industry as well.
Yeah, I think it's human nature to want to belong, isn't it? So when you join a company, you want to see people that look like you there. So it'd be great to see more women and like diverse workforce coming up into the fantastic industry that we work in. And I think that will be key to unlocking potential because you mentioned previously that passenger traffic is expected to grow to 18 billion by 2040. So in your opinion, what do airports need to do to be prepared for this growth? How will they get there?
Yeah. And it's a great question because basically, yes, we still believe that we can double the size of the industry by 2040. That's why $18 billion is almost double what we have today. And why do you believe that? Because if you think about Europe and think about the US, you already reach a certain kind of level of travel per passenger or travel per habitant that is around 2 to something travels per year. But if you go to very populated areas of the world, like India, like Africa, we still flying less than 0.5 flights a year. That's why the potential for these regions will be over of the potential to grow in the other parts of the major markets of the world. And these regions need to increase their traffic infrastructure. And how we need to do that? We need to invest in infrastructure. So infrastructure is something we need to invest. But investing in infrastructure is responsible with the best use of the infrastructure. Because you don't need to build a building for a big order. You need to find ways that you have a better use that you can keep doing the whole day. And so you don't need to spend capex investing in areas that you use it 2-3 hours per day. You need to find a way that you can spread the traffic around the day and how we can create banks with the airlines working together with them to spread the movement of the airport during the day that you can have a better use of the system. The second one is investing in technology. How we can transform and have the more seamless experience for the passenger that they can go more directly to the areas that they need to go to the airport. How we can use the technology to control the flux of people inside of the building as well. To use the air conditioning, to use the stairs, to use the elevators. How we can make that user-friendly for the passengers and also can make the opportunity for them to have a better experience as a passenger. And I already mentioned in certain ways, we double the size of things, but you don't double the size of the employees. Because technology will play a key role, but in certain ways, we need to keep certain areas because the human touch is very important, especially in this industry. So how we can improve the technology, how we can help to have this development that we want, keeping the human touch, keeping the human approach on this industry that is very important to us.
I know that was a theme of your recent conference, wasn't it? Humanize the airport experience.
Exactly. Yes.
I mean, technology, it will play a role in that. It can allow airport staff to focus on more high-value tasks. and being there for passengers when they need that human touch.
Yeah, and in certain ways, our existence is not because we have an airline. The airline exists because they have an airport. We exist because we have the passengers. That's why if we are trying to see, we need to see passenger-centric approach is something that we need to do. And passengers vary from ages, passengers from races, passengers from everything. So we need to find a ways that we can attract and bring these passengers to our buildings in the best way as possible, considering the differences.
Now, I know one aviation ecosystem for all is one of your many mottos. So accessible airports are really important. Congratulations on your recent announcement for accessibility and reputation. I just want to know, why is this important? Why do airports need to consider this? And also maybe which airports are leading the way in accessible air travel?
You know, that is an interesting topic because that comes with one of the accreditations that you are creating. That's already mentioned, equity accreditation. Why not? Could be in the future, you know. But one of the important points, accessibility, comes from the discussions from our board members at some point. The pandemic came, we didn't have the opportunity to really approach that because everybody was trying to address how we can reopen, how we can recover, how we can make things happen. And we didn't have a time to focus on the accessibility itself. We have around 1.5 billion of people that have certain kind of accessibility issues, let's say, from our populations getting age. People have a certain disability that's not perceivable physically, and these people travel in our airports, travel in the airlines, travel in the airports, and we are talking about 1.5 billion people. How we can include these people that can be our passengers and let's go beyond. Why they cannot be also our employees as well? And you know, when we did the research and we started to study more about accessibility, we spoke to the people with disabilities as well to understand what they need. It's not myself telling what someone needs, you know, it's telling what they need, what is important for them to have an airport. And I think in that way, we find a way that we can understand what is needed, what is possible to do, and how we can create that value, that we have an harmonization in the process, globally speaking. That's why the first point was find something that is feasible, find something that is approachable, find something that is accessible for the users, and can be implemented as well, globally speaking. And we propose that to ICAO. We propose that to ICAO because I think having ICAO bringing the setup, the scene, or the global industry aviation, which is very important. And the proposal was very well received by ICAO. So we are approved in the Senate, and that is great. And we create the accessibility accreditation because now we need to have the way that how we can tell our members what we need to do to accomplish this target that is important, is real, and it's something that we need to do. You know? And with accreditation, we will help the efforts to build or to adapt their facilities to reach a level that is acceptable level, that's a level that we work for all. And is again something that we need to work for all, need to be accessible, need to be possible to implement as well. I think the accreditation comes because of that, but it comes because it's our responsibility to deliver that as well.
Gal, I'm going to talk about sustainability, and I want you to be frank. How are we doing as an industry?
You know, the industry is very resilient. We are working very hard to deliver that. And we as an airport, we are already working in sustainability for more than 10 years. We have the airport carbon accreditation for more than 10 years. More than 400 members already part of the program. Just to let you know, we have 2,000 members around the world. That represents 96% of global traffic. So it's huge. You know, the global traffic that represents this 2,000 is huge. And these 400 airports reach almost half of these passenger numbers that we have. And why we do that? Because it's our responsibility. We need to reach that because it's our license to continue to operate. It's our license to continue to fly. And some things you say, you do my part, I'm an airport, that's how it's done. We need to work together to find a way how we can support the whole aviation ecosystem. And as we have 60% of the jobs in the industry inside of our buildings, how we can work with these other stakeholders. with the other parts of the ecosystem. The ground handlers, if they need electric cars, how we do the electrification of our buildings, to have the accessibility of that, how we can pool equipment to reduce the use of the equipment inside of the airports. But you need to go beyond. You need to think about the airlines as well, and how we can help with that. We have some papers that how we can improve and how we can build facilities for sustainable aviation fuels, how we can blend the use of the facilities inside of our airports, use the blended fuel that will come from outside as well. And this kind of guides will help our industry in electrification, in hydrogen and others. So we are happy as enablers to support the industry. And in addition, when we as a global industry was the first one to set the net zero carbon emissions by 2050, we set up our influence and our importance in the world, and say that we as an important industry in the world, we can help to convince and support the governments to support the development of sustainable aviation fuels, to support of reducing the grid of improve the grid of energy for the airports itself, and how the airports can support this decarbonization as well. This is not only putting in the law, we need to see how we can together make this happen. And I think that is our role, how we can work together as an industry to reach that as a target by
now, aviation is influenced by so many outside factors. What is the effect of the war in Ukraine, and how do you see this going forward?
Well, in many areas. First of all, it's unfortunate that we still having wars to solve differences, and that is really something that we really support and are together with the people from Ukraine, and we believe that it's not something that we like to see in different parts of the world. When you look at the system itself, Russia is a big country, Ukraine, Belarus, they are closed airspace. It's like you need to travel from A to B, you cannot cross these areas because of the conflict. And you're not talking about a small area, you're talking about a huge area in the world. That's why affecting the time of the flights, how long they will take to go to A to B, congestion in certain corridors, especially air traffic control, consumer fuel that is more expensive and less environmental. So that is the first impact. The second impact, as Russia is a big oil producer, is affecting the cost of the energy, from gas, from electricity, and everything else that is linked with the consumer of the energy. And with the consumer of the energy is one of the most important costs for the airlines. The jet fuel is part of 40% of the, in average, 40% of the cost of an airline. And if you increase the cost of the jet fuel, it increases the cost of travel in certain ways. That is the second point. The third one is increasing the price of the food. Because when you increase the price of the transport, you increase the price of food. When you have less countries producing food, that affects the cost of the food in other countries. And that generates inflation in the developing world and generates poverty in the development world. That's why we have a lose-lose situation everywhere. And how that can affect, that can affect, from more instability in the world, how they can affect in increasing the cost of operation for the industry, increase the cost of flight, and that of course will generate that less people will fly. In certain ways, is affecting globally in many areas, but that is the effects that is causing for our industry itself.
Now, one of my final questions, you're very busy, Felipe, so what is on your to-do list for 2023? What would your priorities be for your airport business?
Well, the first priority is work for harmonization. Harmonization is very important in everything that you do. It's clear that the lack of harmonization cuts us to recover from this pandemic much slower than you expect. We need to be prepared because of the lessons learned from this pandemic, how we can use that in the future if unfortunately other pandemic will come, And that's important for us, how we can build something that we don't go back, step backs, we go steps forward in terms of harmonization of the industry itself, harmonization of the process that can be. The second point, we need to focus on sustainability. How we can now, we have a target, that's a beautiful target, how we can reach that target, how we can support our members to reach that target, how we can create the roadmaps to reach that target. So that's the second point. Third one is we are a very heavy capital intensive industry, and we need to work to find ways how we can finance the industry. We are coming out of the pandemic with a huge debt, and how we can translate that in the better use of our infrastructure, how we can translate that in less investments, but investments that is worth it to do, that are more green, that are more effective, that are more expensive, but that will build up something that is sustainable for the future. And how we can adapt that in the reality of the airport charges. There is a myth that comes from the airport charges that we are expensive, we represent a cost for the industry, we represent the cost of the airlines that translate the high price of the tickets. But when we analyze the cost of the airport, the cost of the airport itself, the big money that goes to the airport when you buy an airline ticket, in average, less than 5% of this ticket go to an airport. And what we need to work as well, we need to make that the ecosystem need to understand that all need to be aligned and all need to work together to have the outcome that we needed. That's why if you think only part of the ecosystem, we only solve the problem. We only solve the wrong, we only create the opportunity to grow and develop that in the future. So one of our ambitions is work together, create some framework that we are able to negotiate with the airlines in a more open way and more clear way for the public to understand how much is really the airport costs and how we can use these commercial agreements to benefit the passengers. And benefit the passengers, say how we can reduce the number of passengers together and creating a framework that you are less prescriptive and more effective in the way that you build alliances and relationships with our main partners, that the airlines, with the focus in the benefit of the passenger. That will be only one of my big tests for 2023 and onwards, because there are not problems that will be solved in 1 year. But that is our intention, how we can build that together, how we can increase the number of the passengers, and how we can help the industry to grow for the future with the equal and persistent goal.
Yes, I know your New Year's resolutions now.
Which one?
Well, harmonisation, collaboration, and also just letting passengers know more information, a bit more transparent.
That is great. You are very well aligned. I hope your resolution as well that we can help you.
Final question for me then, Felipe, is what has been your passenger experience highlight for us? I want to finish on that highlight.
Yeah, it's super interesting because I this year I really fly a lot. My family can say that, but my body as well, because it's really tough when you need to cross the world for 1 or 2 days, you know. And at the beginning of the year, I was flying to help the countries to reopen, you know, and that was a different trip because with a lot of restrictions, sometimes special authorizations to go to ATP, tests, etc. You know, and that was trips that were a little bit need to really be very well prepared because you come with a list of documents that you need to come and you need to use. When the restrictions start to release, we started to have a more movement of passengers. We stopped seeing empty airports, we start to see more people coming to the airports, and we saw some issues that happens in different parts of the world. But as a passenger visiting our own continents in the last year till now, or during this year until now, I need to tell you that I was quite impressed that what we are seeing sometimes in the TV was not a reality inside of the buildings. Yes, we have some cloudy airports. Yes, I lost a luggage in one of my trips, but was not chaotic as we are seeing, you know. And certain kind of cases, part of that, when you know what you are expecting, you need to also prepare yourself. The problem cannot be solved in 1 day to the other. That's why we knew that during the summer, during the Christmas, for example, when I left Montreal, I knew that the airport would be crowded, and I came prepared, for example, to fight to see a chaos, you know. And what I saw is, yes, an airport full. An airport that I need to wait in the line for maybe 3 hours. But I think I was prepared, the other passengers were prepared, and the flux were going. That's why it's not that you are stuck in the place for many hours, as I saw in many different places that may be happening in the world. That's why I have the experience that, yes, I was expecting that, I was prepared for that, and at the end, my mindset was prepared to face that, and at the end was better than I expected. But yes, there is a lot of work to do, a lot of improvements that we need to do, and I'm quite sure the end of the year will be better, the summer of the next year will be better, and we'll be going back on track, keeping our passengers happy, keeping our focus on the passenger experience, and keeping our focus in people.
Always the eternal optimist.
As usual.
Thank you very much. That was my last question.
Thank you.